Hi, we're Little Jackie, and you're watching
Toasted.
Toasted.
Well, the first question is always the easiest one for me. Can you please introduce yourself?
Okay. I'm Adam.
I'm Imani Coppola, and we're Little Jackie.
And Little Jackie is releasing a new album.
November 7th.
What can we say about the album? Because it's the great thing that struck me when listening to it and really listening to it to the lyrics also, because it's like the sweet, soulful, great songs, short and great radio songs, but the lyrics are different from all those soul-y kind of songs that already were brought out by other girls around the last few years. What can you say about the album?
Well, you're right. I mean, the lyrics are not necessarily what you'd imagine to be sung over very kind of happy and, old school soul songs. So I think that's what kind of makes it cool. It's got a hip-hop kind of rap lyric over, cliche, happy, Motown-esque kind of music. It's like if you took a snapshot of the 60s in New York City, this might be the record that would fit the soundtrack. So Sonically.
Yeah,
Because lyrically, it's more contemporary.
It's nowadays lyrics.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the funny thing is that you really got to listen to it to get the message behind the lyrics. Because if you just listen to it as if you're just driving around in your car, etc., it's just great songs and they will stick in your head, etc. But after 2 or 3 times, you can really imagine, you can really hear what you are singing about.
Yeah, that's a style that I like to write and have people pick up on stuff each listen. There's more depth to my lyrics than it may sound like. They're not average pop songs.
In what way do you work out those kind of lyrics? Because it's not something that can just pop up in your head. If you really want to establish that with your listener, you really got to think of how to write lyrics.
I guess that's just the way I write, or the way I think. I guess it's I don't know how to put it. It's just different,
Yeah, because that's what I'm trying to say. Because when you listen to all those pop songs that have been released, etc., and you aren't even coming from a background of making those plain pop songs. But if you listen to all the pop songs of the last 10, 20 years, you just listen to it as being great pop songs, and that's it. But over here, when you listen to it for 2 or 3 times, you start listening to it.
Yeah, the ironic thing about coming overseas and promoting this record is it seems you guys pick up on the lyrics more than Americans who speak the language do. Maybe you listen.
You're more interested.
Maybe you're more interested or interesting, or maybe it's because you have to think in a different mind to hear the lyrics because you're not, listening in your original language. But it's always really funny to hear that someone who doesn't speak the language gets my lyrics more than people who speak the language. But that's been the story of my life.
But that means that people from across the borders and across the seas, etc., are more interested in your music, isn't that? Because Americans like your music too.
Yeah, Americans definitely like the music. I don't necessarily know if they're getting the right message.
Just don't care about the message.
I don't know.
It's not like obvious music. I mean, it's sort of hard to pigeonhole this record, and that's kind of what makes music more accessible in the United States. So I think because it's sort of genre hops a little bit, it's a little more, I wouldn't say it's more European, but it kind of fits more into like the European taste than in America, which is like, is it pop? Is it R&B?
Either pop, rock, or R&B.
Exactly.
Is it still like that? Because I haven't been there I've been there a few times over the past 2 years, but I've been there a lot, like 6 years or 10 years later. And then it really was like that. But
it's changing a little bit. I think you have, because the music business is changing. You have artists coming from not necessarily traditional avenues to get their music out. It's not necessarily entirely all major music record company. You have people on MySpace who get a lot of exposure through the internet. So that brings about unusual styles of music that are sort of in between genres that aren't necessarily what you'd call entirely pop or entirely R&B.
So there's still like a striking distance between cities and, for example, the Midwest, etc.
Yeah, I mean, well, it's kind of screwed up because you have basically two companies that run all the radio stations across the country. So depending on where you are, you can drive from state to state, city to city, and hear the same songs and the same playlists on radio stations that are basically owned by the same companies. But regionally, yeah, there's definitely stylistic differences on what's being made.
Yeah, and also what people want to hear, because when you drive around the States, and I did it for a few times, I mean, what I always had like the people from Chicago, people from New York, half of the people of LA, and some of the people in San Francisco are more or less thinking and doing the same, and the rest of America is something completely different.
I like how you said half the people from LA. Not all of them.
Not all of them. No.
Half the people from LA. Those are the people that moved from New York to LA, just to have you know. Yeah, America is definitely, it's so many countries in one country, and I don't even know why we call it the same country. Like people in Kentucky, they're just another country. Just
Well, to
yeah,
me, I mean,
the South and the North should definitely been treated separate places.
Yeah, because I stayed at a Memphis family when I was 18 and 19 for the whole summer, and I hadn't been to New York before that, so I came to New York a few years later, and then I really had to change my mind about the American people. But is it still those differences that really makes it hard or makes it difficult to even get your music out to everybody over there?
I guess it's more get your point across than it is get your music out, you know, because we'll put it out there. They might not pick it, you know, receive it well, you know. A lot of them are very conservative, maybe narrow-minded in a way, or just less open. So, yeah, it's hard to get your point across to everybody, but that's just life. You know?